everybody. All right, so we are officially starting improv. Now, improv, as we all know, is theater that you make up on the spot. You don't have a script, you don't have anything to go off of, you just kind of go up on stage and you wing it. That sounds really easy, but it is actually very hard to do, as many of you know, having done it before in little bits and pieces. So what we're going to do is we are going to talk about some tips and tricks, things that will help ensure your success while you are improvising, as well as some things that are better avoided. All right. First and foremost, number one rule, keep it clean. Don't say anything on my stage or in my classroom that you would not feel comfortable saying in front of the principals, your mom, and me all at the same time. That is twofold in purpose. Number one, I really like my job and would like to keep it. And number two, it is much harder to be funny and requires a lot more skill if you are keeping it clean. If you are making jokes that are G or PG rated, those require a lot more effort than just being like, ha ha ha, poop, funny. That doesn't take a lot of effort, and it might be funny for a little bit, but very quickly your audience will get tired of those jokes, and if that's all you got, you're not really setting yourself up for success. So skip that step and jump straight to jokes that require a little bit more effort, a little bit more thought, because they will be a lot more fruitful and you will have more fun coming up with them. Rule number two, go with what you know. Going with what you know is useful for a number of reasons. Reason number one being you will be more confident if you are talking about something that you understand. If I were to do a scene about me being an astronaut, I would run out of stuff to say really quickly because I have never been an astronaut. I don't know anything about space. It would be very hard for me to do. But if I do a scene that's set in like a classroom, I've got tons of experience being in a classroom, both as a student and as a teacher, so it would be very easy for me to do a very fruitful, detailed scene set in a classroom because I can play any role in that room well. Number three, applying basic stage principles. That is pretty straightforward. We need our audience to see us. We need our audience to hear us. So it's very important that as we are working on our improv, we are still facing the audience. We are still speaking loudly and clearly, because you might have this great character that whispers all of their lines, but it's got to be a stage whisper so that the audience can appreciate that character for what it's bringing to the table and not just like, what's he saying? Right? We still want our audience to see us. We still want our audience to hear us. Basic stuff like that. Number four, give and take. Give and take is this idea that you are not the only person on stage. Almost all of the improv that we do in our class, we are going to be on stage with at least one other person, which means that it is not just about you. It is about you and your partner and that dynamic between the two of you. Because if I'm on stage with you, but I'm the one doing all the talking and I'm never letting you get a word in edgewise, that's not going to be a good scene. It's going to be all about me. You won't be carrying a lot of the weight, and then also you'll just be bored. You'll be on stage and you won't have fun. And part of improv is that sort of natural funness of it, if that's a word. So it's very important to make sure that we are allowing our partner to have just as much fun as we are having, and that we are allowing them to take on the load of the scene and also participate, and not just have it be me doing my little song and dance. Number five, this is arguably the most important rule in improv, and that is yes and. Yes and is this idea that we always take what our partner gives us and then give them something back in return. If my partner says, gosh, it sure is crowded on this submarine, I'm not gonna go, we're not on a submarine, we're on a bus. Because then you, the audience, are gonna go, well, are we on a bus? Are we on a submarine? What's going on? And there's nothing for us to work with on our scene. Unless my partner is able to really quickly figure out some way to make it be both a submarine and a bus, which is not a thing, we're just gonna stop and stare at each other, and it's gonna be really tense and uncomfortable and awkward. So if my partner says, gosh, it sure is crowded on this submarine, I'm gonna go, yeah, and I didn't pack any deodorant. Because that means that I am both accepting that suggestion of we are on a submarine, I am saying, yes, we are on a submarine, and I'm stinky. And that's giving them something to bounce off of. And then if we just keep going back and forth, always saying yes and, it will help the scene grow and develop and work really nicely. Number 6, listen. Listen all the time. If you're over here like, oh man, I got this sick joke I gotta set up. He's just gotta set it up for me, and I'm thinking all about me and my great joke. What am I not doing? I'm not listening to my partner. I'm not thinking about their great jokes and what they are saying. So if they set me up for an even better joke, I'm not going to notice because I'm so in my head about my own thing. But if I'm just present in the moment with my partner and they set me up for a great joke, because I am listening to them, I will be able to take that opportunity and make that great joke, right? It's just like being on stage. We always want to listen to what our partner is saying because what they are saying should influence what we say in return. If you are not listening, you're not going to have a good scene. Number 7, stay in character. As always, we want to make sure that we don't see ourselves. You should always have something to make your character different from yourself. Because if I just go on stage and I'm like, hey, I'm Mr. E, I'm doing improv. Here it is. That's going to be really boring. It's going to be so boring. It will not be fun to watch. But if I go on stage and all of a sudden I have thick Russian accent and I speak like this and I walk very stiffly, that's different. It's bold. It's something. And so because it is something, it will be more fun to watch than just me standing here and talking to you, right? We always want to have something that makes it interesting, and then we want to hold that something and keep it going throughout the entire scene. So if I start and I go, oh, Patricia, you bring monkey into house. We got a monkey in the house and I'm Russian. Those two things, I got to stay the whole time. Because if I ever switch back to my regular voice, it breaks that little illusion of the world that we've made. It tells the audience like, it's not important that I'm Russian. And that's lame. The audience wants to believe that things are important. The audience wants to believe in the little world that we have made. So if they are believing in the little world that we have made, I also need to believe in it, and I also need to keep my character consistent. Number 8, avoid announcing. This is a thing that a lot of new improvisers do that is really easy, but ultimately bears very little fruit. And that is this idea of saying, we're going to go to the store. Cool. That's nothing. You gave me an activity, but rather than showing me it happening, you just told me it was going to happen. So rather than saying, we're going to go to the store, say, all right, we're here at the store already. I gotta get some breadsticks and some oranges and a little bit of grape soda, because now not only am I doing something, I'm not telling the audience that I'm doing it, I'm showing them. We always want to show and not tell. We don't want to announce what we're doing, we just want to do it. Kind of in that same vein, we always want to be somebody somewhere. This is a thing that we have talked about many, many times. This is a rule you should all be very familiar with. But it is very important that when we go on stage, we're not just like, you want to go to the store? Sure, let's go. Okay. Because in that moment, we don't know where we are, we don't know who we are, all we know is that we're going to the store at some point. And that's boring, that's not fun to watch, it's not fun to do. But if you decide that you are this Russian aristocrat who is talking to their servant about making them some fine tea, immediately you've got something to work with. And then if you decide that you are in the kitchen as the person is making tea and you're ordering them around and telling them to make tea in this weirdly specific way, that's even better, because now we've got this environment to play in. In a kitchen, you've got knives, you've got a stove, you've got sinks, you've got a fridge, you've got all of these things that you can interact with and play with in the world, and that is going to be more interesting to watch than somebody just standing there and staring at somebody else. We always want to be moving, we want to be doing as we are improvising, because doing is more fun to watch than just talking. 9 times out of 10, a scene that involves doing something will be more interesting than a scene that is just talking about doing something. And to do something, you have to be somebody, you have to be somewhere. Number 10, end on a high note. This is one that takes a lot of practice, but as you are improvising, you should be getting some kind of response from your audience. It might be laughter, it might be awkward silence, but regardless, we want to always be paying attention to those signals that our audience is sending to us, because those will decide how long our scene is. Think about the best action movie you've ever seen. They don't start with all the explosions and action and car chasing and then keep going past that. We don't watch Transformers and they start with everybody getting the Allspark. Wow, that's a dated reference. We don't watch Avengers Endgame and start with everybody coming back from the snap and the huge battle with all of the characters from over 20 movies. No, we start with the OG crew and then we watch it build. And it's the same thing in improv. We start with smaller laughs and establishing our scene, and then we watch it build and grow. And then by the time we get to the end where we get that nice big laugh, that's where we end it. Because we want to end at that biggest, strongest moment, because this is what the audience is going to remember. And if you go here and then keep going, it's just going to get smaller and the audience is going to go, wow, this is really dragging on, isn't it? But if we have that nice big laugh and then button it right there, the audience is going to end going, wow, that was a great scene. I really enjoyed watching that. And that's what we want. We want our audience to have just as much fun as we are having. Number 11, don't try to be funny. This is one of those things that, again, is really hard to do, but when it's done well, you won't even notice. Because if you are trying to be funny, that can very easily turn into you trying too hard to be funny, and then it's just kind of tense and awkward because you're giving too much and you're leaning too much into it, and your partner is just like, whoa, man, slow down. Or alternatively, you're spending so much time making jokes that you're not building your scene and you're not going anywhere. And because you're not building your scene and going anywhere, it is much harder for your partner to also make those jokes and also to be funny. So if you just live in the world of your scene and you say, wow, I'm here in this weird situation, let's see what happens, it will bear more fruit and it will end up being a lot more funny because you aren't trying to be funny. You are just living honestly, because that is where comedy comes from. It's from setups and punchlines, and the punchlines happen when the setup makes sense. So if you're spending all of your time trying to be funny, you're only giving me punchlines and never giving me setup, and that is not going to bear fruit. It's not going to be funny. It's just going to be like, wow, that was something. And we don't want something, we want to be funny. And to be funny, you have to not try to be funny. And our last but most important rule is to try. Trying is how we succeed in improv. Even if you go up on stage and you completely bomb, none of your jokes land, you're just really tense and awkward and not funny at all, as long as you're trying, you're doing a good job. Because the only way to get better and the only way to get stronger at improv is to try. And if you're up there and you're just like, whatever, man, I'm not going to do this. A, that's not going to reflect very well on you, and B, you're never going to get better and you're never going to improve. And improv is one of those things that if you can do it well, it's a skill. It is like a thing that you can put on your resume, because being good at improv and being able to speak quickly off the top of your head will make you a just better conversationalist. You will be more capable when speaking to other people. But in order to get there, you've got to try. And all you have to do is to just do your best. I'm not grading on how funny you are. I'm not grading on if you can make me laugh. I'm just grading on if you get up there and if I see effort. The only way to fail at improv is to not try. Like it says. Cool, and with that, we're done talking about improv rules. So, I hope you found this informative. I'm very excited for us to put these rules into practice and to see you get up on stage and try your best. That's all I got for this round. I will see you when I see you. Until then, peace out.